Hello, it's John Moody here, and I'd like to go over more things you can do with Moody Sash Window 2.0. Today, I want to discuss how you deal with materials in the window. So first off, there is a default material. If you highlight the window and go to the shader tool here, it's Procedural Paint Beige. So since it is procedural, you can pretty much change the color to anything you'd like. Or you could use the eyedropper, okay? I'm gonna get it to go back. Also, pretty much all the materials are down at the bottom part of this geometry node area, right here. So the default setting of the window is to have this default material checkbox checked. And that means that just about everything has that first default material. All the locks, all the tilt latches, sash bars, etc. However, if you want more leeway on what you can do with it, you can uncheck default material. Then each one of these places, you can put your own material in there. Like if you want to get real picky and maybe have a plastic area, a metal area, a wood painted area, etc. You can do that with all these separate places. So, default material or the separate materials. I think I'll keep it on separate right now. Okay, the hardest thing about the materials to deal with is this brick sill or the concrete sill, and especially if you want to make this little indentation brick or whatever is on the outside of the wall, there are some specific ways to do this. So I'll start with a brick sill. So that's right up here. And these are the only materials that aren't down there. They are specifically with the bricks. Here, there are options. There's concrete, sill, and brick. And the appropriate materials are here. So it starts with concrete and goes down to brick. It's probably harder dealing with brick, so that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, this took me by surprise. I was making renders, and the render looked differently than the viewport. And it took me a while to figure it out, so I'm going to make sure that you know how to deal with this. The main thing is that with the sub-D workflow, different levels change the way the material looks. You can work so much faster if you set the level to 0, but it changes when you change the level. And, so then if you render, like I'm doing all my work with viewport at 0, but render at 2, that means that render is going to slightly change things. So here's an example. I'm changing it and it slightly moved. Sometimes you're all set after you move it to 1, but it would be good to see what it looks like when these match. Okay, and this looks all right to me. So I'm going to make it go back down to, oh yeah, see that big change? That jumped quite a bit. Okay, now, so you could totally know how to deal with materials and Moody Sash window. I'm going to go with a new material. This is the default brick that comes with it. But let's say we want another brick. So let's find one. I'm going to go to my asset browser and go to brick. All right. And I'm going to find red brick. And one of the reasons I'm picking red brick is I know it presents a peculiar problem, and this will give you a chance to work with it. There are sometimes weird like holes in the material, like right there. And I've discovered that if you change the displacement values, actually do away with the displacement values, that will be fixed. So it just happens that if I change the displacement values for this material, it still looks pretty good. So I'm going to do that. Let me go to the shader editor, and I will undo the displacement, and now the space, goes back. Now we're eventually going to figure out how to make this little interior area match with the brick texture. But before that, let's figure out the sill. Okay, for both the sill and the concrete, there are actually two textures. One is for the majority of the sill that you see, and the other is for the end caps. So this will be regular, and the end caps will be slot 1. I'll open this up so we can see. So regular, slot 1, regular, slot 1. So let's first off take our red brick, and I'm going to want this to be a little bit smaller. Let's try 0.5. And I'll go one more than that, 0.25. All right, so now we got a brick house, and it's this red brick texture. What I'm gonna do is make a slot for this, and this is very important. In order to actually see the bricks here, there has to be a place for them in this house texture. Let's just make that red brick. I'm going to make this unique. Then I'm going to change the name to MSW or MSW shader. It's just Moody Sash window. Then over here, I'm going to get rid of the texture coordinate, and I'm going to add the Moody Sash window shader, MSW shader. Okay, I'm going to plop it here and move it so it goes in with this mapping area, and just connect these vector to vector, location to location, rotation to rotation, and scale to scale. Okay, next I'm going to have another slot for the slot 1 version of this. So here we're going to go red brick, MSW, make it unique, and I'm going to add the S1 for slot 1. Okay, and here there is an actual shader for slot 1, MSW shader slot 1. These two shaders will appear when you add the Moody Sash window to your scene. So now we should be set. I'm going to go back to the window, scroll down to the material area, and let's change those bricks. So first off, this will be red brick MSW, and this will be red brick MSW shader 1, or slot 1. Now, wow, that looks really different, really weird. Basically, these shader areas change based on the material. So I had this set for the bricks that came with it. This is not working. So let's see what happens if I rotate the UVs. And now I'm going to change the scale. Let's rotate it back to 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to stretch these out. Now, one thing you have to do when working with these materials is figure out which way does the slider go in order to make the material bigger or smaller. And they're different. The first material would slide to the right would get smaller. This one, I slide to the right and it gets bigger. So, let's see, we want the X scale. And what I'm going to want is to make these really kind of stretched out and longer so I don't see that white mortar line here. So I'm stretching it out long, All right, I think I may have to raise the bricks just a little bit. Some of the texture of the bottom of the house is coming in, so let's raise it up. just a little bit. So that is gone. There. Good. So now I'm going to change the scale for the Y value and try to, again, so this time I'm going to go left, which for this material is making it smaller. Okay. Here's the slot 1, and I'll just move the location around. Yeah, and you can see right there that things are moving around with the location. So this makes it real easy to get rid of the mortar lines. Okay, so now we're going to get the red brick area on this little space. So what we're going to do is hit the Moody Sash, well, the hole cutter, and change this material to red brick MSW. There it is. And now I have a material on here. Obviously, it's really out of whack. And what we're going to do next is figure out how to get this lined up. And I have found it easiest to have 2 windows. And I'm going to look at the top here and the bottom here. And basically, I just need to work on the scale here. So remember, scale for this one, as I go down, it gets smaller. Okay. Notice every time I move this, everything is moving. Okay, this looks like it's kind of getting close, so let me line it up. For this material, Y is going to do this area, and I'm trying to line up these mortar marks. Let's see about this. There will come a time when there's about the same amount of space here as here. And I'm pretty close here, so let's see if this lines up. There it is. Okay, now we have to match up these top lines. I'm going to do that with the X location. And then we're going to see if we can get rid of this line by moving this translation back. And, okay, that might work. It works on this side. Now, how about that side? Okay, yuck, there's a whole another mortar thing there. What sometimes works is if I move the translation the other way, and then usually there'll be another brick layer coming up here, and sometimes this one will work better. Okay, we're good on the right, and we're good on the left, so that worked. So finally, we have a window. Unfortunately, we're not done. Yeah, every time you change the width, you're going to have to mess with the UVs. So if I just want to repeat this window, I go Shift D. Here I'm just going to line up these bricks I already lined up previously, and that looks great. But if I want to actually make it a wider window, so first off, let's actually change the windows. I'm going to add a right and a middle window. And the problem is if I change these windows, it's going to change that window. So if I change the location here, it's changing it there. So I'm going to undo that. The way to avoid that is to make a separate category for this window. So let's go, a separate collection. So I just added a collection. I'm going to name it Windows, and we're going to move this window into that collection, and we're going to copy our hole cutter, right click to keep it in place, we're going to refer to that other window there. Then we're going to go to the Boolean, select hole cutter, and I think we're set now. So now we can change the UVs here and they won't affect there. First off, our lower sill is very stretched out now. So let's move the scale on the y-axis, I think. And I'm just moving it so that they're closer together. I'm going to try to match the window on the left. Okay, there, that looks pretty good. Okay, now we need to try to get these right. And look, since it's wider, now here's the narrow ones and here's the big ones. We have to change the rotation of the bricks. Which reminds me to show you one more thing that could happen with the sills. Okay, 90 degrees. Okay, and then I simply have to line these up. So I'm going to do this quickly. Okay, moving them smaller. I'm using shift to make it more precise. That looks pretty good. See, this is just a little bit up, that's a little bit up. Let's see if we can correct it here. And did I remember to put subdivision on? So I'm gonna hit the window, hide this, nope. So watch this, I'm gonna change subdivision to 1, and that totally messed that up. Now, it was relatively easy to move the bricks. So now I should be able to just, I got them the right scale. I should be able to just change the location. And this should work. Okay, yes, that worked great. Okay, and now let's change the X location. I'm going to move the translation a little bit, see if I can get away with that. Way over there. Yeah, that looks really good. All right, so basically anytime you change the width, you have to make a new collection, put things in it, add a new hole cutter. You know, what I would do is kind of get these set up with the different size windows and, you know, maybe have 3 or 4 different size windows and then move those windows around the house wherever you want them. That would be relatively easy. There is one other thing you should probably be aware of. I think that these sills are pretty much like how I see most sills. They just go out a little bit. But watch what happens if we change it. So that would be the depth. So these are gonna stick out more. And notice every time I move anything, all the material is changing around. So here, now that looks good. Let's see if this does what I think it's going to do after a certain point. Yeah, after a certain point, the textures flip. And the way to fix that is to change the UV rotation. Bam, fixed. So just be aware of that and you should be all set. All right, this will look good once the subdivision is applied and it should render really well. Yeah, see everything popped back into place. So this can get you up and running with the materials with Moody Sash Window 2.0. I'll be back later with some other, hopefully shorter tutorials that will help you navigate Moody Sash Window even further. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again.